The wrong door. It started on a quiet Sunday, the kind of morning where the world seems to pause, just for a little while. Keanu Reeves stood on a sidewalk in a quiet Los Angeles neighborhood, holding a bouquet of white tulips in his hand. They weren't for a romantic gesture, not this time. They were meant for a woman who had written to him an old fan letter rediscovered during a late-night cleaning spree in his storage unit. It was written years ago by a young cancer survivor named Emily, who had once told him that watching his movies gave her strength during chemo. She had written that if she ever made it through, she would one day send him flowers. But she never did. Keanu had found the return address on the envelope, and something about that letter had stayed in his heart all week. Today he wanted to return the gesture. He didn't expect anything, just wanted to give back. The house looked the same as the one on the envelope, blue door, mailbox on the left, number 304. He walked up, knocked gently, and waited. No sound, no footsteps, just silence. He knocked again, then the door opened slowly, and there she was. But it wasn't Emily, it was Ana de Armas. Her eyes widened when she saw him standing there. Her hair was tied back loosely, and she wore an oversized sweater that slipped off one shoulder. She looked like she hadn't expected anyone, not today. Maybe not ever. Keanu froze. Not because it was Ana. They had worked together before, shared memories on set, and even stayed in touch on and off, but because he hadn't expected her. Not here, not now. Definitely not as the person answering the door to a letter from the past. "Keanu," she said softly, her voice unsure. "Are you looking for someone?" He looked down at the tulips, then at her, blinked, confused. I think I have the wrong house," he said quietly. Ana smiled a little, but it didn't reach her eyes. Something about her expression was distant, tired, like she'd just been through something and didn't know how to talk about it. "Come in anyway," she said gently. "You look like you need to sit down." "And I think I do too." He hesitated, but then nodded. Inside the house smelled like lavender and coffee. Soft lights streamed through thin curtains. Everything was neat, but not in a forced way, more like someone who needed control over their space just to feel okay. They sat across from each other on a worn gray couch. The flowers rested between them on the coffee table, so ... "Who were the flowers for?" Ana asked quietly. "Someone named Emily," he replied. "She wrote to me years ago, said this address was hers. I think she must have moved. Or maybe she never made it." Ana looked at the flowers, then back at Keanu. She didn't speak for a moment. Then, almost as if the words slipped out on their own, she said, "I think the flowers still found the right person." Keanu looked up. Her voice cracked a little on the last word. She wiped under her eye quickly, pretending it was just dust or maybe tiredness. But he saw it. The sadness. "You okay?" he asked softly. She tried to smile again. "I'm not sure, I guess." "Not really." He didn't push. He just waited. She looked down at her hands. "I left everything," she whispered. "Hollywood, the meetings, the scripts, the parties. I just ... disappeared. And no one came looking." Keanu frowned gently. "Came," he said, not trying to be poetic, just honest. Ana laughed a little through her nose. "Even if it was an accident." "Maybe not an accident," he said. Silence stretched between them. The kind that wasn't heavy but thoughtful. Healing. "Do you ever feel like you gave your whole self to something and still ended up empty?" she asked. "Yes," he answered immediately. "More times than I can count." She nodded, like she expected that, like she already knew. Maybe that's why she let him in. Because Keanu wasn't a stranger to pain, he carried it quietly, like a second skin. She stood up, walked over to a small wooden cabinet near the window and pulled out a dusty envelope. She handed it to him. "This came a week ago. I don't know who Emily is, but I think this was meant for you too." Keanu opened the envelope slowly. Inside was a single folded letter. The handwriting was familiar. It was Emily's, dated 5 years ago. "If someone ever finds this, and if you're reading it, I hope he still smiles the way he used to. Tell him, ... he gave me strength. If I'm gone, Let someone else hold those flowers. Someone who needs to remember that kindness still lives in this world. Keanu didn't realize he was crying until Anna reached over and touched his hand. Guess. The letter found both of us, she said. Keanu nodded, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she didn't feel like a shadow. She felt seen, and he, too, realized something. Sometimes the wrong door is exactly the right one. What stayed unspoken next morning, Keanu sat on the edge of Anna's guest room bed, still holding the letter Emily had written. Sunlight spilled through the half-open blinds, casting soft lines across the carpet. The house was quiet, peaceful. But his mind wasn't. He had meant to drop off flowers and return home. But the moment Anna invited him in, something shifted. She hadn't asked for anything. She hadn't even told him why she was really there. But there was a sadness in her that echoed his own. It wrapped around him like a whisper, familiar, unspoken, but powerful. In the kitchen, he heard the soft clatter of a mug against the counter, got up, folding the letter neatly and slipping it into his jacket pocket. Anna was standing barefoot in front of the stove, that hair tied back again, a gray hoodie wrapped around her. She was stirring something. In a pot, oatmeal maybe, but her shoulders looked tense. Her back slightly hunched, like she was carrying something invisible. "Good morning," he said gently. She turned, surprised. "Oh, hey, did you sleep okay?" "Better than I expected," he replied. "Thanks for letting me stay." "It was nice not being alone," she admitted, then looked away quickly. "I mean, just for a night." Keanu nodded. They sat down at the kitchen table. She poured him a cup of coffee without asking. He smiled. It was strong and bitter, just the way he liked it. "So," she said, eyes lowered, "you gonna tell me why you really showed up yesterday?" Keanu blinked. "What do you mean? You're not the kind of man who randomly knocks on strangers' doors with tulips, even if they were meant for someone else." He looked down at the coffee. Steam rose between them, I guess. "I've been thinking a lot about the past," he said slowly. "People I've lost. People I didn't get to thank. I found that letter, and it reminded me how many things we leave unsaid." Anna nodded, chewing slowly. "I get that. More than." "You know," a long silence followed, this time heavier than before. Like both of them were building the courage to speak, but afraid of what might come out. Anna finally broke it. "I was going to sell everything," she whispered. "The house, the awards, the clothes, even the scripts. I packed my life into boxes and just sat here day after day, trying to decide if it was all worth it." Keanu looked at her closely. Her eyes were red, not from tears now, but from nights of restlessness, asking herself questions with no answers. "Why?" he asked softly. "Because it all started to feel fake," she replied. "The cameras, the praise, the smiles. People loved the image of me, but no one really saw me. When I finally broke, they called it dramatic, selfish, ungrateful." Her voice cracked. She stared at her hands. "But you saw me yesterday," she whispered. He didn't know what to say, so he reached out and touched her hand gently. "You're not alone," he said. And that was all she needed to hear. Asterisk, asterisk, they decided to take a walk. The neighborhood was quiet. Trees swayed gently in the breeze, and the occasional bird call broke the silence. They didn't speak for a while, just walked side by side. "I used to love walks like this," Anna said suddenly. Before everything got loud, Keanu looked at her. "The world is loud. You don't have to be. But if you're quiet, people forget you," she replied. "Or they finally hear you," he said. She smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen since arriving. They passed a small park with an empty bench. She sat down and motioned for him to do the same. She looked at the kids playing in the distance, their laughter floating on the wind. "I never had a normal childhood," she said, "but sometimes I wish I had moments like this." Keanu nodded. "Me too." Anna looked at him. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" He gave a quiet laugh. "Enough to know pain doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits beside you." "Have you ever thought about disappearing?" she asked. "I already did," he said, "but no matter how far I went, The silence followed me. Anna leaned back. The sun warmed her face. Her eyes closed for a moment. Keanu watched her, and something in his chest tightened. Not romantic, not yet, but human. Protective. What if I stayed? She asked quietly. Not forever, just for now, in this house, with these mornings, with silence that doesn't hurt. Keanu smiled. Then I'll bring you flowers again, he said. This time on purpose. Asterisk, asterisk, that evening, they sat on the porch as the sky turned gold and pink. Anna had pulled out an old photo album from a drawer. Inside were pictures of her. From before she became famous, back when she was just a girl in Cuba with messy hair and a dream too big for her town. She handed him a photo. That was me at 16. Can you believe I thought Hollywood would fix everything? He looked at the photo, then at her. Hollywood doesn't fix things, he said. Maybe moments like this do. Anna leaned against his shoulder, just lightly, not in need, not in romance. Just for warmth. For the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like running, and Keanu didn't feel like leaving. Echoes in the hallway. It had been 3 days since Keanu showed up with flowers meant for someone else. Now, the flowers sat in a clear glass jar on the windowsill, still fresh. Anna had changed the water every morning, like a ritual. And though they never said it out loud, both of them knew something in their lives had shifted since that knock on the door. On the third morning, Anna came down the stairs in a pale green robe. Her steps were slow. Thoughtful, Keanu was already at the kitchen table, reading a folded note Emily had written on the back of the envelope. It simply said, "Some people aren't meant to save the world. Sometimes they're just meant to remind one person it's still worth living in." He looked up as Anna entered. "Coffee?" he offered. "Please," she said softly, "but only if you don't make it as strong as yesterday." I couldn't blink for 3 hours. Keanu smiled. It was a soft smile, the kind you wear when life feels real. They sat in silence for a while, both sipping slowly. The sound of the morning news drifted in from the living room, but neither of them paid attention. Anna finally spoke. "Do you believe people find each other for a reason?" Keanu didn't answer right away. He looked at the steam rising from his mug, then said, "I believe some doors open exactly when we need them to. Even the wrong ones." Anna nodded, her expression unreadable. Then she stood up and walked to the living room shelf. She pulled down a box. Inside were old letters, scripts, photos from past sets, frozen moments from a life she had grown tired of. She placed the box on the table and opened it slowly. "This is everything I was going to burn." Keanu looked at her, surprised. "I don't know why I'm showing you this," she said. "Maybe because I don't want to hide anymore." She pulled out a photo, her first film in America. Then another, a script from a role she turned down because it didn't feel honest. And then a letter unopened from someone she once trusted, someone who had broken that trust completely. This one, she paused. I never had the strength to read it. Keanu looked at her gently. "Want me to read it for you?" She hesitated, then slid the envelope across the table. He opened it carefully. "Anna, you probably hate me now, and you have every reason to, but I need you to know the truth. It wasn't jealousy, it was fear. I saw you rising, and I knew I would never catch up. So I hurt you first, thinking it would protect me. But all I did was lose you, and you were never replaceable." Keanu looked up. Anna's face had gone pale, but she wasn't crying. "Not this time. I always thought I was hard to love," she whispered. "Too ambitious, too emotional, too much." "You were never too much," Keanu said. "It's just too real for people pretending." Anna swallowed hard, then laughed quietly, almost bitterly. "You always say things like that. Calm, simple, like you don't carry your own weight." He looked away. "I carry it, just don't let it own me." Asterisk, asterisk. That afternoon, they drove to the beach. Anna hadn't left the house in days before Keanu came. But now, with the wind in her hair and the sea in her ears, she felt something stretch inside her, something long asleep. They walked barefoot across the sand, their shoes dangling in their hands. No cameras, no makeup, no expectations. Just two people who had spent too long pretending they were fine, They sat by the rocks as waves crashed nearby. "Do you miss the world?" Keanu asked. "Some days," Anna replied. "But mostly I miss myself." He looked at her. "Maybe she's still in there." She turned to him. "Maybe she is. Or maybe she's just someone new now." They sat quietly after that. Sometimes the best conversations happen when no words are said at all. Asterisk, asterisk, that night, the wind picked up. Keanu lit a fire in the fireplace, and they curled up on opposite ends of the couch. Anna had brought down an old notebook and was sketching random shapes. He watched her quietly. "I used to draw when I was a kid," she said, "back before the world had a name for me." Keanu nodded. "I used to write songs. Badly, you." "Really?" "Yeah." He chuckled. "I never showed anyone. They were always too personal." "What were they about?" He hesitated, then answered honestly. "Loss and hope. Mostly both." Anna looked at him and whispered, "I wish someone had written a song for me." Keanu smiled. "Maybe someone did. They just never had the courage to share it." She went quiet again. Not sad, just still thoughtful. Then she said something he didn't expect. "Stay here tonight too." He looked at her. "You sure?" She nodded. "I don't want to. Feel alone again. Not tonight." So he stayed. Not because he had to, but because something in both of them knew. They were finally healing. The box she never opened. Ed's fourth morning came with gray clouds and the scent of rain clinging to the air. Anna stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching raindrops race down the glass. The beach trip had left something in her. Not just sand in her shoes or sea salt in her hair, but a memory of what peace could feel like. Still, a part of her feared it wouldn't last. Keanu walked in, holding 2 mugs of warm tea. He didn't say anything, just handed one to her. It was chamomile, her favorite. She hadn't told him that. He just guessed right. "You always notice the small things," she said. It's barely louder than a whisper. "That's where the truth hides," he answered. They stood side by side, watching the rain fall. The silence between them no longer heavy, more like a blanket, comforting, safe. Anna turned to him slowly. "There's something I want to show you, but it's not easy." He didn't ask questions, just nodded. Asterisk, asterisk in the attic. There was an old wooden chest she hadn't touched in years, covered in a blanket, tucked away behind boxes of clothes and things she no longer used. When she opened it, the air changed like time had been waiting. Inside were parts of her past she had hidden from even herself: journals, childhood photos, newspaper clippings, and one velvet box she had never dared to open again. She sat on the floor, cross-legged, the chest in front of her. Keanu sat nearby, watching silently, waiting only if she wanted to share. She pulled out a journal and flipped through pages filled with messy handwriting. Some pages had drawings, others had tear stains. "I started this when I first came to America," she said. "I wrote in it every night. It's about the loneliness. It's about how hard it was to smile when I didn't even know who I was anymore." Keanu said nothing, just listened. People saw the red carpets, the dresses, the success. But they didn't see the nights I cried on the bathroom floor after auditions, or the way I clung to compliments like they were oxygen. She held up one page with a poem on it, written in shaky lines. "They called me beauty, but never asked. About my wounds, they wanted my smile, not my scars." She looked up. "I stopped writing after this page." Keanu leaned forward. "Why?" "Because someone I loved told me the world didn't need another broken girl story," she whispered. "They said if I ever wanted to be remembered, I had to hide my pain, bury it." "They were wrong," Keanu said. "Your pain is the part that makes you unforgettable." Anna blinked quickly and reached into the chest again, her fingers wrapped around the velvet box. She held it in her lap but didn't open it. This was from my father," she said quietly. "He gave it to me before I left Cuba. Told me to open it only when I felt like I had truly found myself." Keanu's eyes softened. "And you haven't opened it yet?" "No," she said, "because I didn't think that girl was still in me." A long silence passed. Then Keanu said maybe she never left. Maybe she just got buried beneath everything they told you to be. Anna looked at the box. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Will you open it with me?" she asked. Keanu nodded once. She slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a small gold necklace with a simple heart-shaped pendant. Etched on the back were words in Spanish. "No pierdas cuyaneros." "Don't lose who you are," Keanu translated softly. Anna covered her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "I forgot he wrote that." Keanu reached over and gently fastened the necklace around her neck. His fingers brushed the back of her skin, light and respectful. "It suits you," he said. "Not the jewelry. The message." Anna looked at him. Something deep in her eyes shifted. Not romantic yet, not rushed. Just a quiet realization that she was being seen. Not as a celebrity. Not as a product. But as a person. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" Keanu asked. "For not treating me like a mirror. For not needing me to reflect anything back to you." That night, they sat outside on the back porch, wrapped in blankets, the rain now just a drizzle. Anna held a candle between her hands, its tiny flame flickering. "Can I ask you something?" she said. Keanu nodded. "How do you stay kind in a world that keeps trying to harden you?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Because I remember what it felt like when no one was kind to me." Anna looked at him for a long time, then leaned her head on his shoulder. "Maybe that's what makes people like you rare," she whispered. He didn't move. Didn't speak, just let her rest. Asterisk later as she fell asleep on the couch. Keanu pulled a blanket over her and turned off the lights. Before heading to the guest room, he paused in the hallway, looking back at her peaceful face. He thought of Emily's letter again. Let someone else hold those flowers. Someone who needs to remember that kindness still lives in this world. He hadn't come looking for anyone. But maybe the flowers had found their way to someone who needed them. Most, and maybe he had to. When the world came knocking against morning after opening her father's velvet box, Anna stood in front of the mirror wearing the necklace. She didn't touch it. She didn't adjust it. She just looked at it, simple, gold, soft against. Her skin, a reminder of who she once was, maybe still could be. Keanu was in the kitchen making toast. The smell of butter and cinnamon filled the house. He hummed quietly to himself some forgotten melody that seemed to calm everything around it. Anna walked in, her footsteps light. "You're humming," she said. "Bad habit," Keanu smiled. "No," she whispered. "It's a beautiful one." They sat down together at the table. Outside, the clouds were gone, and sunlight had returned to the sky. Anna glanced at her phone the first time in days. Her inbox was full. Over 50 missed messages, all from managers, agents, producers. She turned the screen face down, Keanu noticed. It didn't push. After a moment, she said, "It's like the world only remembers me when they want something." Keanu looked at her gently. "What do you want?" She didn't answer right away. "I want to feel proud of my silence, not ashamed of it." Later that afternoon. While Anna was outside watering the small garden she'd neglected for months, her phone buzzed again. Keanu picked it up from the kitchen counter. He didn't look at the messages, but one name flashed again and again. Lucas Ford. Anna, single quotes as ex-director. Director, the man who had once publicly humiliated her during a live interview, joking about her emotional breakdown as if it were part of a script. He'd laughed when she cried. Hollywood had laughed with him. She came in with dirt on her hands and a smear of soil on her cheek. Keanu handed her a wet towel and said softly, "Lucas is calling." Again. Anna froze. The smile on her lips faded. "How many times?" "For today." 11 total. She sat down slowly, her hands tightening around the towel. "He's working on something new. A redemption project, he called it. Wants me to star?" Keanu sat across from her. "And what do you want?" Her voice cracked. "I want him to leave me alone." "Then don't answer." "But what if? What if this is my only chance back in?" She whispered. "Then it's not worth going back," Keanu said. That night. Anna stared at the stars. Keanu joined her after a while, handing her a cup of warm milk. "What do you see up there?" he asked. "Freedom," she replied. "And fear." "Fear of what?" "Fear that I'll go back to being the version of me they want. The one that smiles on cue and hides every scar." Keanu leaned back in the chair. "You know what I see?" "You know what I see?" "A woman who survived everything meant to break her." It still came out soft. Anna didn't say anything, but tears slowly filled her eyes. Asterisk, asterisk, the next morning, Anna received a package. No name, just her address written in rushed handwriting. Inside was a printed article from 4 years ago. The headline read, "Ana de Armas walks off set Lucas. Ford calls her too emotional to be professional." Stapled to the top was a handwritten note. "I'm sorry I was cruel. Saw your pain and made it a punchline. You didn't deserve that. I'm not asking you to come back. I just want you to know I finally see what I did." Anna sat on the floor holding the note. "He apologized," she said when Keanu came in. And Keanu asked, "And I don't." "Feel better. You're not supposed to," he said. "You're supposed to feel free." She looked up at him. "But it still hurts." "That means you still care about the parts of you they tried to take." Anna nodded slowly. "Maybe that's not weakness." "No," Keanu whispered. "It's your greatest strength." Asterisk, asterisk that. Afternoon, she did something she hadn't done in years. She opened her laptop, started a blank document, and wrote a letter. Not to Lucas, not to her fans, not to Hollywood, to herself. "Dear Anna, I forgive you for staying silent. I forgive you for walking away. I forgive you for being human." When she finished, she closed the laptop and walked outside. Keanu was sitting in the garden, fixing a broken wooden planter. "I wrote something," she said. "Want me to read it?" "Not yet," she said. "But someday." He nodded. They sat in the garden for a long time, hands in the soil, hearts a little lighter. Asterisk, asterisk that night, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror again. Still wearing the necklace, Keanu passed by in the hallway. Their eyes met in the reflection. "I think I want to act again," she said. He paused. "You sure?" "Yes," she said. "But only if it feels like truth, no more masks." He smiled. "Then let the world adjust to your truth." Anna turned to him. "You brought the flowers to the wrong house, remember?" Keanu chuckled. "Did I?" "No," she said. "You brought them exactly where they were needed." Asterisk, asterisk later, Keanu sat alone on the porch, Emily's letter in his hand. He read the final line again. "Give the flowers to someone who needs to. Remember that kindness still lives in this world." He looked back at the house. Anna stood in the doorway, her silhouette framed by warm light. "You ready for the world again?" he asked. "No," she said, "but I'm ready for me." Where healing begins there was cool on the morning. Ana de Armas walked barefoot across her living room to check the mailbox. She hadn't opened it in a week. For so long, it had only brought her scripts she didn't want and offers she couldn't face. But today was different. Today, she opened it with calm hands. Inside were 2 letters. One was from an old friend back home in Cuba, handwritten, warm, full of childhood memories and the scent of simpler days. The other was from a small, independent filmmaker. She'd never heard of him. He wasn't asking for a performance, just a conversation. He'd seen an old interview of hers, the one where she'd looked exhausted and said, "I just want to be real again." His letter ended with, "Maybe we can build something honest, not a comeback, just a beginning." Anna stood in the doorway. For a long time, holding that letter, she didn't smile, she didn't cry, she just breathed. For the first time in years, she felt still inside. Asterisk, asterisk, Keanu had stayed longer than planned. What was meant to be one night had turned into a week. Then, 10 days. Neither of them talked about how long he'd stay. It just ... felt right. No pressure, no questions, no labels. At 2 people sharing a quiet space where they didn't have to pretend. They sat on the couch that afternoon, flipping through old photo albums. "You've lived so many lives, Keanu. said, pointing at a picture of Anna in a school play. I've hidden from most of them, she replied. You don't have to anymore. She looked at him. You never told me what you're running from? He shrugged lightly. I'm not running anymore, just walking slowly in the right direction. And where is that? Here, he said. With people who aren't afraid to tell the truth, even if it's messy. Anna leaned her head back on the couch and closed her eyes. Do you ever think we met exactly when we needed to? Not a doubt in my mind. Asterisk. 3 days later. Anna accepted the meeting with the independent filmmaker. She invited Keanu to join her. Not as her manager, not as her guard, just as someone who made her feel brave. The meeting was held at a tiny cafe off a quiet street. No paparazzi. No red carpets. Just 3 people around a wooden table, sipping warm drinks and talking about storytelling, not for fame, not for image, but for healing. I don't want to play a perfect woman, Anna said during the meeting. I want to play someone who's real, who breaks and rebuilds, who forgives herself. Keanu watched her speak and thought of the girl who had stood barefoot in the kitchen only a few days earlier, scared to even look at her phone. Now, here she was, speaking her truth like it mattered, because it did. The filmmaker smiled and nodded. Then let's tell that story. Back at home, Anna stood in front of her closet. She looked at the gowns, the shoes, the designer bags, the things that once told her who she was supposed to be. She packed most of them into boxes. Keanu helped her load the boxes into the car. They donated them to a women's shelter downtown. Anna asked the shelter director if she could write a letter to go with the clothes. She did a simple note that read, "To the woman who wears this next, may you feel powerful. Not because of what you wear, but because of who you are." On the final night before Keanu planned to return home, they sat outside under the stars again. Anna looked at him. So, what happens now? Keanu smiled softly. Now, you keep going, and I do too. She nodded, trying to stay strong. You saved me. No, he said. You saved yourself. I just reminded you how. Ina reached out and took his hand. Will you visit? It's only if you want me to bring flowers again. They laughed gently, not loudly. It's just enough. Anna whispered, bring sunflowers next time. Why? Sunflowers. Because they face the sun even after the darkest nights. Keanu looked at her for a long moment. Then sunflowers it is. A week later, Anna was on set again. No paparazzi. Just a small crew. A single camera. And a story about a woman who disappears from the world.
Only to return.
Stronger, softer, and more honest than before, between takes. She would touch the necklace her father gave her and think of the flowers Keanu had brought. Not because of what they were, but because of how they arrived. Unexpected, quiet, and at the perfect time. She wrote Keanu a letter one evening after filming. She didn't send it yet. Just folded it and kept it in her bag. You came to the wrong house, but you knocked on the right heart. Thank you for never asking me to be anything but myself. Some stories don't end with big speeches or fireworks. Some end with a woman standing in the sunlight, smiling to herself. Some end with a man quietly walking away, knowing he left behind something more meaningful than applause. And some stories, the best ones, don't really end at all.